Pokemon cards has never been as, through things like repacks and PSA, the infrastructure's never been anywhere near what it is now. And that, gives me more confidence to say that it can continue to grow. This is a card from 1911. It's of the Titanic. It is the only card produced of the Titanic before it sank. Hand cell from the first season of SpongeBob, painted by hand, used in the show. It's on screen for like 10 or 15 seconds. And if you hold it up like right in you feel like you're in the show because this is the show. The first season of SpongeBob was painted by hand. I legitimately think more people would recognize my SpongeBob art than most of Leonardo da Vinci's work. This is a Warren Buffett letter that pastor from Jeffersonville wrote Mr. Buffett asking for a signed photo, and Buffett just wrote right on it.
In this conversation with Buster, we discuss why collectibles have gone from a hobby to a legitimate wealth-building machine, why tens of trillions of dollars changing hands through inheritance over the next 20 years will pour into this market, and why most people will only take this seriously after the biggest gains have already been made. These are the highlights from our conversation with Buster on our live show, Memes and Markets. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Memes and Markets. Keith, how are you, man?
Today's the best day of my life, Ben. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. We have an amazing guest with us here. So everybody in the chat, say what up to Buster. Everyone say hello. We got How Are You Now with us. We got Derek talking about shiny cardboard addictions. Yeah, a lot of people got that. We got a lot of awesome people in the chat. Buster, how are you, man?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, dude.
Is that a thing? Shiny cardboard? Is that like a saying, or is that just you make that up?
I think that's just from them, but Buster would know better than me.
There are shiny Pokemon. Yeah. That's kind of a thing, but
100%.
Word.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, so just for some context on you, Buster, I'd love for you to give like the 1 to 2 minute explanation on what it is, what you do, and what you care about.
Sure. Yeah, I started building social media theme pages when I was like 12, 13 years old, built a bunch of them in sports and music and other niches. And then eventually, realized that my team and I could help companies do the same thing. So for the last 6 years, we've been, dialed in on helping companies in collectibles and sports media and all sorts, CPG and AI and a few other niches, scale their organic social followings and build their brands online. And then I've been a collector for the last, 10, 15 years too, as long as I can remember. And it's been a pretty wild run. So that's been a lot of fun too. And also invest in a lot of early stage companies and am producing a few different shows as well. So that's what I'm focused on.
So Buster, we met a few years ago. I think it was during COVID, during the Clubhouse stuff. Do you remember that whole craze?
Of course. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. There hasn't been anything quite like that since or even before.
It was so wild. That's how I had heard of you because I also had a very similar background in terms of growing theme pages, and it's a pretty small world within that space, especially like 10 or so years ago. But then we got to talking. We used to be on stages talking about different things and talking about NFTs. And then I remember at that time as well, sports cards were pretty hot, and so too were Pokemon cards. And I remember having fairly long conversations with you trying to explain to me why they were so valuable and popular. So for people who are watching this, I'm already seeing a lot of people being like, why would anybody buy this crap? Could you try to explain like the thesis of why collectibles are worth what they're worth?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things. We'll use Pokemon as an example. Pokemon came out in 1999. It is, and earlier in Japan in 95 and 96. And, it is the most successful intellectual property in the history of the world. They've done over 100 billion in sales of related products, video games, movies, merchandise. And a lot of it can be tied back to the Pokemon cards. So, what is the origin of, the most successful intellectual property ever created in human history worth? It's probably worth more than, some random painting by someone that nobody knows and has no association or, nostalgia towards. And then you combine that with, what I think a lot of us saw as inevitable, which was the age demographic that grew up, uh, with Pokemon and in, the late 90s is now hitting their financial maturity. So now they have money. And, uh, you know, then you also get the people who, have observed this market and have seen the Charizard first edition PSA 10 go from $1,500 to $700,000. And then you start getting investment grade level people and institutional money. And then you also have these phenomenal repack and other businesses layered on top of it that fulfill consistent liquidity in the markets.
What's repack?
Basically, a digital repack is, uh, like an example would be you download an app, you pay $50, and you open a already graded card by PSA. And then you have an option to instantly sell it back, or you have an option to, keep it and have that card shipped to you. And the math, basically works out to where most of the cards in, let's say, $100 pack are worth 60 to 80, and then you have some that are worth hundreds or thousands. And those products do hundreds of millions of dollars a month in volume, which further add liquidity to secondary markets, eBay, all of their platforms. And, you combine all those things I just said together, and that's how you get a very, very happy and thriving, market.
Yeah, it's wild to see how much it's really grown, and all the points that you say, like they do matter. And a lot of people, they look at that like, oh, well, what's the value? Like, why is that worth any money? And they say, like, what is this providing to society? But the thing that I would always say is, what is any asset really providing to society in most contexts, right? Like, even the concept of people would say, like, oh, buy a house, but like the value of the home is largely derived in the mind. Like, it's not necessarily that it's worth what people say that it's worth. It's just we've collectively all said that this is what something like that is worth, and so we decide what value looks like.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely say to buy a home before you buy a first edition PSA, but I wouldn't say to buy a second home before you buy a first edition PSA 10 Charizard. And I think that's the position a lot of the people who are buying these assets are in. They already it's it's a very interesting world, and we'll see what happens. But I wouldn't tell anybody that it's like a necessity to humanity or anything like that. It makes people happy. It's nostalgic. It has a phenomenal track record. It is very scarce. And if you don't believe the Pokemon brand's going anywhere, then I think the future will look a lot like the past.
Totally. Keith, what you got?
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing that a lot of people will, push back on, the thing that they'll try to use as an example as to like, okay, well, this is different when you're investing into, for instance, the stock of a company, right? Because the company, what does it do? It employs people, right? And that's kind of like the main sort of thing. And that company is also providing products and services to the world that help people live better lives and things of that nature. So I just wanted to provide that side of thinking about when you're investing in something.
But that's flawed too.
What comes out of it.
Because like their employees are like, every Pokemon is an entertainer and they can work 24/7, 365. So I would say like Pokemon's employees are actually like far more efficient than like most other companies.
Well, public companies are judged based on their earnings power. And in some cases, it's no different for high value collectibles. Let's take a wild example. Let's take the biggest example.
Okay.
The Mona Lisa, I believe, adds more than $1 billion of incremental revenue to France every year.
$1 billion.
$1 billion. Think about, or, to the Louvre, to Paris as a whole. Because think about all the people who go there. They buy tickets to the museum. They buy hotels to stay near the museum. They buy flights to get there. And then they eat and support all the local restaurants, and that generates tax revenue. The same way that Louis Vuitton makes bags and sells them. So for high-end collectibles, you do have actual earnings power and potential to monetize that or items of that. Like, just think about, take artists, right? Keith Haring, Picasso, Warhol, how many items and bags and all sorts of different things you see that art on that generates actual dollars. And the Pokemon company itself, the card producers are incredibly profitable. At the end of the day, it costs like less than a penny to produce a card, and then they can sell for $10 million. So it's a pretty healthy margin on their side. And then on the collector side, um, you know, grading and scarcity and
Mhm.
all of those sorts of things are huge arbitrage opportunities for people who believe in the assets.
Totally. But for Pokemon in particular, it feels like it's reached a different level of crazy. And we did an episode on it a few weeks ago, and I had looked at some of the like metrics in terms of interest and search volume in particular, and it is at a level that has never been like seen before. Do you think this kind of growth is sustainable?
Um, Not the kind of growth that we've seen the last 2 years, but do I think it can continue to grow? Absolutely. Um, what I do think is sustainable is actually the high end. I think the
Okay.
high end is sustainable and the low end is less sustainable. But what's true now is that the infrastructure around Pokemon cards has never been as, through things like repacks and PSA and all sorts of the different large companies in the space. It's the infrastructure's never been anywhere near what it is now, and that means a lot, and that gives me more confidence to say that it can continue to grow.
What did you mean by the high end and the low end?
Yeah, so for example, uh, Pikachu Illustrator sold for $16 million. That is the best Pokemon card in all of Pokemon cards. Historically in art, you see the largest appreciation sort of accruing to like the top 0.0001% of all artwork. Like, the art that performs the best from an investment standpoint is the art that you recognize. Like if I showed you 100 paintings or if I showed you 1,000 paintings and 100 of them were the most famous artworks in the world, the ones that you could point to and be like, oh yeah, I know Starry Night or I know Mona Lisa or whatever it is. Those are the ones that outperform the rest. And in collectibles, it's just as true.
Hmm, Gotcha. What a Sale said, ask Buster about the collaboration with Pokemon and the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. Did you see anything about that?
Yeah, it was a few years ago. It was nuts. They gave if you ordered boxes of cards online, they would send you a free Van Gogh Pikachu, and now those are $3,000-$4,000 in
Wow.
many editions. So they were just giving away $4,000 for free to anybody that wanted it, basically. And it caused mayhem at the actual Van Gogh Museum, but they didn't realize they could just get them online.
So you said that and I would agree with what you said in terms of like the top. I think it'll be valuable for as long as we're around. But it does seem like the lower end is sheer speculation, and a lot of people who are buying that are strictly looking to flip and make money. So do you think that, like, do you think there'll be a pullback or a crash in the Pokemon card market?
I'm not going to say there's going to be a crash because the demand
Is
is
that
just
high?
so high. But is the card with a population of 100,000 going to reach $1 million per card? No, that would be like the United States GDP. You put it all together. So, I think expectations should probably be tempered on cards with extremely high populations, but I think the high end, rare, vintage will continue to go up. Yeah, over a long period of time.
Sweet, man. And so when you and I first met and started talking a lot more, NFTs were going crazy.
Mhm.
Do you think that NFTs will ever have a resurgence?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting. I've actually been following Bored Apes. The floor doubled in the last 2 3 months. I think it's interesting. The only thing that gives me a little hesitation is that the new buyers hasn't increased that much. It's mostly the existing buyer pool that's just like bidding up.
Yes.
But I think that for what it's worth, I think Bored Ape could have done a much, much better job cultivating actual community events, products, that kind of stuff. I think they dropped the ball there. But
What would you have done?
if I was running Bored Ape Yacht Club,
Yeah.
I would have done something crazy like buy a pro sports team and, rally everybody together and,
That'd be really cool.
make all the apes an owner or something like that. Because they could have done it in emerging leagues. I mean, the amount of money that they've generated and made could have supported
Wow.
that.
That would have been awesome.
I would have done something creative like that. And I probably would have tried to do it a lot faster. I mean, if I was them too, I would have gone out and, acquired physical collectibles too, build museums. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that I think that they, you know, uh, should do. They're certainly not done, and I hope they, reach back to the cultural heights. But them and CryptoPunks are a great example of like the top 0.01% of that asset class. So if that asset class is going to work, they're going to work.
Yes.
So
Love that.
I'm rooting for it 100%. And but most of the other projects are, abandoned.
Yeah, and I said to Keith pretty recently, I was like, that's one of their biggest problems is getting new buyers is very difficult.
Yeah.
If you were trying to get new buyers in, could you think of how people could better do that?
I think some of it has to do with the platforms. It's pretty difficult.
Yes.
And it's scary too because you hear all these stories about, these wallets hacked. I'm surprised by now there isn't just like you can store it where like your credit cards are in your Apple Wallet. Like that's where these things should live. They shouldn't be living on, these third-party apps and in these third-party wallets where if you click one wrong button, your life collection is gone. It's like it's a joke, honestly,
It is.
how like ridiculous it is. So I think when that happens, there could be opportunity to bring in people who are previously scared of it, which I think is far higher than people think. Just because who's gonna admit that they're scared?
Very true. There's a lot of people who have made their first serious money outside of a traditional job now through collectibles, largely through Pokemon. Do you think there'll be any sort of rotation of a small percentage of those people buying other collectibles, like, and maybe NFTs are part of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think collecting has no end, and as long as these people are passionate about what they're collecting, and definitely true that if they see their collection going up in value, they're gonna keep buying and buy more and more. So, yeah, I mean, I've personally seen asset class rotation in collectibles when people do well.
Keith, I know this is a foreign world for you. So what do you have?
Well, so I would want to bring it to the things that people are talking about right now in the mainstream. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had a famous watch brand, Audemars Piguet, put out a collaboration with Swatch. When you see things like that, I mean, it ended up turning out that this is not a limited edition at all. And so people are like mobbing to the stores and like trampling over each other and having to shut stuff down over a pocket watch that's not even a limited edition. But I'm super curious, Buster, as to how you look at that side of the collectibles world and how that interacts with society as well.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. They created a lot of demand. At first I thought that Swatch was the big winner and AP was the big loser, but as it turns out, it's a pretty different product than their traditional watches. I think a lot of people got duped by some AI images going around.
We did too.
Like, yeah, I mean, I think everybody did because they hadn't put anything official out yet. And as it turns out, it's like a non-limited edition, mass produced, totally different product. I think it's a win for both parties, and we'll see what the supply and demand looks like and what the quantities actually end up being. Because I think at $300, there's a lot more demand than they could actually supply. So I don't see it getting back to 300, but who knows? Maybe they make 10 million of them.
It's certainly a case study in communications as well, right? Like in this day and age, if you're going to make an announcement of an announcement, like you almost have to prepare or be expecting of the fact that people are going to run with that and create things about it and potentially completely ruin the whole like perception of what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, if AP was a publicly traded, company, their stock probably would have crashed. So I guess it's a good thing they aren't.
Yeah.
And AP and Swatch got a pop after those images started circulating. So
Wow.
yeah, the market clearly thought that they were a winner there, which obviously I agree with. It makes them like you know, more premium looking versus like a kid's product.
Have you ever played around? I mean, you have some physical collectibles today that you want to share with us. Have you ever played around with the watch scene in particular, or even in cars or anything like that? You're watching the highlights from a conversation on our live show, Memes and Markets. Be sure to subscribe to this channel to make sure that you don't miss the best parts of our conversation from our live streams, where we go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Now, back to the highlights.
No, not really. Watches scare me for a few reasons. Insurance costs on watches are significantly higher than other collectibles because they're the only collectibles that really leave your home.
True.
Wow.
From a safety perspective, I don't like watches. Um, I don't fully understand all the, you know, I don't love like the dynamics of how like to get a certain watch, you have to like spend a ton of money with a certain retailer. And if they find out that you're selling it, you're kicked out. It's not a club I'm interested in being part of. But with that said, I think that, certain watches have definitely stood the test of time and been outstanding investments for people. But, you gotta, as a collector, as an investor, you just have to pick your spots. And I've never been interested in cars because, similarly, storage costs are extremely high and they're, you know, depreciating assets when you drive them. So
When you said safety as well, you mean like if you walk outside with a watch, like someone might try to
yeah,
take
yeah,
it?
exactly.
It's the thing where, much like Buster said, you take it with you all the time. And then it's also like enough people know what they are and that it's valuable, right?
That's
So
true.
like you literally are putting yourself, there's this happens all over the world. In the UK, it was a massive problem where there was like this ring of people that had WhatsApp groups like looking for people sharing their nice watches at restaurants, and they'd wait outside with a knife and say, "Give me your watch."
That's so fascinating to think about too, because that's one thing that does, like, a car is slightly different in the fact that, like, bro, you're not going to get away with stealing a car.
Not often.
You'd have to really know what you're doing. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Whereas with a watch, yeah, you could just take someone's watch. I'm
Easy.
surprised they haven't thought through that more and think about the technology of the tracing and the tracking of the watch. Maybe the serial number alone could actually help with that too. But I feel like that's something that it interestingly changes the market for something like that. I mean, a car, um, it's way harder to steal a car.
I feel like all these things we're referring to are also like bullish catalysts for NFTs in general, right? Because NFTs don't have that concern. Another person in the chat said that, oh, I sold my collectibles because I was worried about losing them or damaging them. That's another pro for NFTs as well,
Yes.
right? And so if it all comes down to like what is the value parameter and like what is the equation that people go through for why they're buying something like this, and personally, I think more and more people will get to that place once Buster's point is fantastic. Like, the user experience is just not good enough. Like until that happens, it's gonna be really
Yeah,
hard to get people.
to the point of like losing or breaking physical collectibles in your home. Insurance on physical collectibles is very cheap.
Is it?
Yeah, it's very cheap. I mean, you can get $1 million worth of insurance for like $2,000 a year.
Wow.
So, people should not be worrying about like that kind of like breaking or losing or that kind of stuff if you store it in a 300, 400, 500 pound safe insured. I don't know, maybe I don't know what is the insurance,
For NFTs?
yeah.
I don't know if that's a thing.
I was gonna say, I'm like, that's like something
That's a
that
con.
doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Well, it could, but it could be a product.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be the insurer of because just swap, bing bam boom around, but yeah.
No, for sure, man, for sure. Lots of interesting comments. What a sale said, I have a few nice watches, but I never wear them. I look at my phone. I thought watches were dead after smartphones. Fair.
For that utility, but for the flex, I think it became even bigger because everyone could see the
Yeah.
picture of the watch. You know what I'm saying?
Apple Watch has been a pretty successful product too.
Very true. Yeah,
Yep.
Apple Watches are very big. But Buster, do you want to walk into the physical things that you have with you and explain why you picked them?
Sure. Yeah, I brought a couple things, some new acquisitions that I'll show here. This is one of them. This is a card from 1911. If you recognize what it is, it's of the Titanic.
That's
Uh,
wild.
it is the only card produced of the Titanic before it sank. So this card was made between 1909 and 1911. It was produced by Cadbury Chocolates as a promotional item in their product to promote the launch of Olympic and Titanic, which were sister ships. There's only about 50 or 60 of these in the world, and I have a few of them now. Um, and this is what I believe is like the Honus Wagner of non-sport cards. And yeah, I think it's awesome. Like in terms of a story and like history, I mean, the fact that no other card was produced of the Titanic before it sank. There are thousands produced after it sank, but only one before it sank.
And
So
that's such
that's
a key part of the story of the Titanic in general. So that makes a ton of sense. So you're a collectibles expert. It's what you do every single day. Could you walk us through how you got to the thesis of I'm going to buy this?
Yeah. So I look for a couple things. One is how I think people will react online through content, because that's where some of the value comes from it for me personally. I think about I think about the end result before I buy it. Like, how would I sell this? How would I want to sell this? What do I want to do with this? Do I want it in a museum one day? Do I want to sell it in an auction? Do I want to, trade it or something like that? And then I think about, the population, the scarcity, the condition, the grades, where it sort of sits culturally. And then also, like the potential for this category to expand. And there are a few other things that I look at, like what the how long they've held value. Has it been around for 10 years? Like I can say, just the other day I bought my first Picasso. So it's a letter that Picasso wrote to his banker, and I looked at the sales from 10 years ago, and they were thousands and thousands of dollars 10 years ago. So that is not a fad. And it's Picasso. So it's not like, a 100,000 production run card. So those are some of the things that I think about and look
So
at.
cool. Yeah, those thinking models are so valuable because it allows you to spot opportunities that others may miss or be like a few steps ahead, which is where most of the returns come in. But with this kind of asset class, like how do you even know what something's worth? Because like it's not like a very fluid market in a lot of cases. Like how do you even dictate value?
Some markets are a little clearer than others.
Okay.
One of one stuff is where it gets very difficult.
Mm,
Like when I've been buying all the SpongeBob art, like that is very difficult to assess and assume value. And there are auctions, but there's nuances with everything. And with that, there's arbitrage and there's opportunity to get, what I think are underpriced assets. But then other stuff I have to overpay for because there's just not, like, if I'm basing it on comps, I'm overpaying just because there's none other available. And I, feel like that asset over the long run is going to do well, but in the short run, based on comps, I might be overpaying for it. So it goes both ways.
fascinating, man. So then the next thing you want to talk about the SpongeBob stuff?
Sure. Yeah. Give me a sec to grab. I brought one cool one down here. Give me 1 sec.
Is your house just littered with collectibles, man?
No, most of the stuff isn't kept here, but
Got it.
I do have a couple things, just for the sake of content.
Yeah, makes sense.
So check this one out. This is a pan cell from the first season of SpongeBob,
Wow, that's super
painted
cool.
by hand, used in the show. It's on screen for like 10 or 15 seconds.
That's wicked.
And if you hold it up like right in I mean, you feel like you're in the show
Yeah.
because this is the show. The first season of SpongeBob was painted by hand. And then they went digital after that. So I've, for the last, call it 4 or 5 years, I've been, you know, buying all the original artwork for SpongeBob. And it's a long term, but big bet. And, obviously feel very, very good about it.
Yeah, I could see that panning out because there's a lot of like that was a
No pun,
show that pardon?
no pun intended. This was a pan.
Nice. But, yeah, I could definitely see that working because SpongeBob was really, really popular for a long period of time, and the nostalgia factor is also a very big deal. But for buying stuff like that, once you've made that decision, "Okay, I think this is a good bet," like, how do you even source the things to buy? Are there platforms and stuff where you go to?
A lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah.
The every category is different. So there's no same answer for everything. But what I figured out eventually was that Nickelodeon had sold them through an auction house that went bankrupt in 1999, 2000. And that through the bankruptcy proceedings, they had sold the bulk of the work to three individual collectors who were in their 40s and 50s then. Now we're in their 60s, 70s, 80s. And I've, acquired a lot of stuff from them directly.
That SpongeBob one is super interesting too. I feel like a part of this is also the story behind it, right? And that one's really unique to think that there was only one season painted by hand. And then from that point forward, you never would even be able, there is no other versions of these paintings that
Yeah,
will ever
they're all
exist.
one of one, screen matched. There's no other in the world. Yeah, for all
Yeah.
that stuff.
That's, yeah.
And people also happen to say that the first season's the best. It's got
Yeah.
most of the iconic episodes. People say the first three seasons are the best, but the first season is extra special because if you look at them side by side, you can sort of tell the differences between digital animation and hand done animation.
You're watching the highlights from a conversation on our live show, Memes and Markets. Be sure to subscribe to this channel to make sure that you don't miss the best parts of our conversation from our live streams, where we go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Now, back to the highlights. Totally. I think about you throw the party at your house and you've got stuff on the walls or things that are in the living room. And you're like, hey, everybody, this is the story behind this piece that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just, just processing that in real time around what that could, what that
Yeah, I
could
mean
look like.
it's crazy. Part of my thesis is something as simple as some of the artworks, some of the SpongeBob art is so recognizable that I legitimately think more people would recognize my SpongeBob art than most of Leonardo da Vinci's work. And
It's
if that's true, they're worth a whole lot more than $5,000-$10,000. So
Very cool.
man, that's a great point there because it's also been I don't know if there's a cartoon that's been memed as much as it too.
yeah,
Like
it's the most memed television show of all time.
which is a big deal, right?
And I
Because
have a lot of the memes. I've
do
got
you
the
really?
memes. Yeah.
That's baller. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It's fun.
Man, that's so cool. So
That's
then,
a long bet, man. It's a long bet, but it's the same thesis as Pokemon. It's just
yes,
a couple years later because the difference, so Pokemon was 99, SpongeBob was 99, but SpongeBob was marketed as a children's show. Pokemon hit like teenagers right off the bat and through the video games and other stuff. So SpongeBob is another 10 years to catch up demographically with Pokemon. So the same things that you saw happen with Pokemon will happen to every SpongeBob category within the next 10 years. And it's going to be nuts.
what are the categories in SpongeBob?
You've got cards. Topps has been producing cards recently, and they're fantastic. And some are already setting crazy records. A couple sold for like $50,000, $100,000, but I think it's going to be millions. Then you have sealed video games, the original Game Boys, that kind of stuff. You have the original artwork. You have Steven Hillenburg, the creator of SpongeBob, signed items, projects, stuff like that. I have some of that stuff as well. And then you have the, voice actor base of, Tom Kenny and who voices SpongeBob and Bill and, Roger, who voiced Patrick and Squidward and others. And I think that, all of those different things are going to be quite interesting over time.
So cool, man. And then you said you had one more item with us as well, right?
Yeah. So I brought one of my other big collections is, my goal in life is to be somewhere in between SpongeBob and Warren Buffett. This is a Warren Buffett letter that so a pastor from this church in Jeffersonville wrote Mr. Buffett asking for a signed photo, and Buffett just wrote right on it, "Don't have any photos, but here's a signature," and then signed it big bold Warren E. Buffett. I've got a pretty big Buffett and Charlie Munger and Berkshire Hathaway collection. Similarly, I think with that category, it's one of those where it's like, if you are a investor, baller, billionaire, entrepreneur, whatever you may be in that group, got to have a Buffett in your office. I mean, you just have to have a Buffett in your office. He's the Michael Jordan of investing. So, that sort of spurred that category of investing for me about 3 or 4 years ago, and I've been a fan of Buffett for like 10 years too. So
That's super cool. I feel like that's a very interesting combination of things, right? Because you have Warren Buffett, incredible prolific investor, and an incredibly strong cult-like community around that.
yes,
And because he's an investor, and because that's the crowd that you're attracting, you've got people that have a lot of money that they can spend on these kinds of things. So,
yeah, it's
so
pretty
that's
crazy.
super
I can give
cool.
you a wild example. So me and a buddy, we went in 50-50 on a few Buffett items, and we had listed them on eBay for about 4 or 5 times what we paid. And the moment Buffett announced his retirement last May, they all sold immediately.
Wow.
Wow. And we looked up like who the buyers were. They were all like top investment bankers from all the biggest banks in the world.
Dang.
Incredible.
Yeah, who your customer is or who you're selling it to, like that dictates basically the price level.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I always find it so funny when people who don't buy stuff like this are like saying, "Oh, who would ever buy that?" It's like, not you. That's the point.
Yeah, I forget what the number is, but there's tens of trillions of dollars that are about to be handed down and through inheritance over the next 20, 30 years. And you really think those people are going to go and want the products and projects from 100, 200 years ago? No, they're going to want what they grew up with, and they're going to want the best of the best.
That's true. Yeah, fine art is getting redefined too, and the amount of money that changes hands within the fine art scene is crazy, but it's not as public, so people don't really know it unless it's a big spectacle of like when they have selling like those Banksy pieces and stuff like that. I've seen things like that. But
You guys see what happened last night?
no, what happened?
Christie sold $1 billion worth of art last night.
$1 billion.
They sold a Rothko for $80 million, a Pollock for $180 million. A few Picassos that sold above estimate, a few Monets for tens of millions. Yeah, it's one of the biggest art sales in history. It was just last night.
So who's buying that? You know what I mean? Like you're probably around this general scene. What's the typical person buying stuff like that?
I mean, it's billionaires, it's funds, it's endowments, it's all sorts of different museums potentially are entering the bidding. It's just privately wealthy people. Pretty crazy.
So you run your newsletter. Is that like your guys' main media source for the collectibles content?
Well, most of the collectibles content we create is on behalf of our clients.
Got it.
And companies we work with, but personally I make collectibles content. And we are going to be launching a new collectibles newsletter soon, so that'll be fun.
Sweet. And how can people sign up for that when it launches?
But if you follow my personal Instagram @Buster on Instagram, I'll post about it when it's ready.
Cool. We'll make sure that that's linked in the description box. Buster's Twitter is there as well. Go ahead, Keith.
So I got one more thing I wanted to ask you guys about.
We got time.
So this guy, Illuminati Boss, he posted this the other day. He said, this is about like the art market and like how it gets used by super wealthy people. So he says, millionaire makes $20 million in 2026. Millionaire hires artist to make art for $25,000. Artist puts one streak on canvas. Millionaire thanks the artist and has art appraised by an appraiser in his same circle of friends. Appraiser values the artwork at $20 million. The millionaire donates $20 million artwork to a museum to get a $20 million tax write-off. And then the millionaire pays no taxes in 2026. And then it's funny at the end, he says, me at the museum, this is stupid. It's just a line on a canvas. The hipster next to me says, no, you just don't understand it because you're uncultured.
There's a lot of truth there. And that's why I buy SpongeBob, and I don't, and I don't want single line produced by somebody else. I want you want stuff that is one of one, unique, culturally known, actually had use. I think animation art's amazing because of that. Like, it created content that billions of people enjoyed all over the world. That's utility, whereas a lot of these like huge commercially famous artists, and honestly, I love a lot of their artwork, but it's true that they produce less than 1% of their own works.
Wait, what do you mean? Who's producing it?
People that work for them.
Wow. Okay.
It's 100% legit, and they come by at the very end. They sort of like oversee it, make sure it's good, sign it, number it, and it ships off and sells for tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, it's wild. But the flip side argument to that would be they spent 40, 50 years working their butt off to get to that position, and people love them for all that work that they created over their life, and now they make an accessible way for everybody to collect that. So there's multiple sides to it, but I am not a buyer of that $20 million example that you even if I had the money, I wouldn't be a buyer of that example.
So for all the stuff that you're getting into, I'm sure most people watching this would be like, okay, like that's cool, and I love that Buster's doing it, but it's not stuff that I could probably ever touch. Do you think, like, if someone wanted to get into collectibles, investing or trading, whatever word you want to attach, where do you think is an emerging sector that's approachable for people who don't have a ton of money?
I mean, there are spots in every category. You definitely don't need money to build a collection. Money allows you to be less selective and make broader stroke bets, but you can do damage with $100. Like, I mean, if you're just scrolling eBay, finding, I'll just give an example of a very cheap category: magazines. PSA just started grading magazines. You can find first appearance magazines of all kinds of celebrities and athletes and stuff for like $5-10 on eBay. You get it graded, grades high, relist it. First appearance of XYZ. You could do quite well with that arbitrage today. But obviously you're not going to be able to get Warren Buffett autograph for $100 or even $1,000. And if you think you found it, it's probably fake.
That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I think getting creative and starting with whatever you can. And I love that example that you gave there, because you're creating way more value by doing a little bit of extra thought and work.
Exactly. That's where all the arbitrage is in collectibles, doing a little bit of extra thinking and then eventually being able to either articulate that or let other people find it organically.
Heath, looks like you got something.
I do, but I don't know the name of the guy or the books. We have to search for it, and then I'll come back to you. But there's this guy who like basically makes his whole, he's a trader in financial markets, but like the way that he trades is by like finding cultural types of moments. And he uses that. Yes, that's the guy.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on some of that type of stuff?
I mean, he seems like I've never spoken to him, but he seems like a super smart guy. I like his tweets.
Cool. Yeah. One of them as an example was like something around like Barbie coming out, and he like invested in, I don't know, the company that was producing it or whatever.
Yeah, Mattel. Yeah.
Yes. And I find that stuff fascinating, because a lot of people in financial markets, it's like data this, data that, but there's also this entirely separate side of like, obviously you're still looking at data, but like to what degree is there a cultural phenomenon that you can take advantage of as well?
Very, very real. Those things tend to be better as like trades than collectible investments. So you're not on the other end, like needing to sell it. From a collectible standpoint, I like things that I can keep for 10 years, sort of like, why I joke about wanting to be somewhere between SpongeBob and Buffett is like Buffett would buy and hold companies forever. And I think that's where your mentality should be with collectibles too, unless you're just a flipper. And, that's sort of a different thing.
Are there any other categories that are on your radar for the next 5 to 10 years that you're looking at right now?
Animation art's probably number one. I think some sealed video games are probably cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Magazines for sure. Certain Type 1 photos, game worn jerseys, I think are, in certain instances fairly valued, in certain instances very cheap. Sealed and graded music, vinyl, and CDs have been making a huge, huge comeback culturally over the last 5 years. Sales are skyrocketing. I think high grade sealed vinyl will continue to accelerate. And I think we just had like our first $100,000 sealed vinyl graded sale, graded by AMG. And I think that you'll see $1 million vinyl sale soon.
Wow.
That's awesome. Do you pay attention much to like top signals when, say, a certain celebrity or whatever may start touching a specific asset class? Does that make you concerned about the long-term longevity of it?
I mean, if it was an asset class I was fully invested in, I would for sure be paying attention to it. But in terms of like general stuff, not
Okay.
really.
Cool.
Yeah.
So then if you hadn't touched Pokemon cards yet, would you advocate that people start there, or should they pick something that's a little more on the come up, in your opinion?
Depends what they're passionate about. Like,
Okay.
I think it's important that I reiterate, like, all the things I showed you, I am super passionate about. Like, if it was not an investment at all, I would love it. Like, I love showing people and telling the stories and stuff like that. Everything for me has to, be investment and passion together. So if this imaginary person is super passionate about Pokemon, I would say dive in. But if they're just in it to make money, I would say don't even think about touching it.
That's a great distinction, because the passion is really where the alpha comes from, because you generate yourself through your energy and effort, right?
Curiosity.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like that,
And
yeah.
look, the defensibility is if it crashed, you would still love the asset.
Yeah, who cares?
Totally.
I would be a very happy person if Buffett signatures went to zero. I'd buy them all.
Buy them all. Yeah.
Even less.
That's super cool, man.
That's
Awesome.
actually a really good like way of looking at it. It's like, what would you do if the asset class crashed?
Yeah, and that's how Buffett always looked at stocks and public equities too. Like, he would only buy stuff that if it went down, he would buy more.
Wow.
I love that,
Very,
man.
I
very
try.
good.
I mean, I think you should think about that. When you're buying anything, anything as an investment, whether it be collectibles or equities or crypto or whatever it is, you should want it. If you are really confident in that asset, you should want it to go down. You should buy it and hope it goes down.
What a psychological cheat code that is, when you can be a lot less angry when the prices go down. You can shift towards somewhat of excitement.
Well, if you're angry that the prices go down, you probably weren't very confident in it to begin with.
There's a lot of that in crypto for sure.
Yeah. People don't. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a whole different subject. I'm going to refrain there.
Played the fifth. That's fair. So
Yeah.
we've got some names that and words that we want to play the one word game. So I just want you to say the first word that comes to mind when I say either a name or a thing. Okay.
All right. SpongeBob. I'm just kidding.
Obviously, you can start there. SpongeBob.
Art.
Logan Paul.
Genius.
Jake Paul.
Fighter.
Drake.
Banger.
Tom Brady.
Goat.
Michael Jordan.
Goat.
Kobe.
81.
LeBron.
Longevity.
eBay.
Marketplace.
NFTs.
Interesting.
Gary V.
Wizard.
Mr. Beast.
Goat.
And last one is WNBA.
Potential.
Love it, man. Any other from you, Keith?
No, that's fantastic. That also just said a whole lot about the level of positivity that you bring, because there's a lot of opportunities there to go in some different directions. I love
Which
that,
one?
man. Somebody said, brand one said flopper.
LeBron.
Val LeBron?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you would have gotten some different answers if I. Who knows?
Do you touch sports cards much still?
Yeah, a decent amount, but not to the extent of the other categories I collect.
Got it. Well, before we got a few minutes left with you, I'd also love to hear about your origin with building theme pages, what you learned from that, and then where do you feel as like a social strategist like you are, where is the underpriced attention today online?
Yeah, I mean, I started building theme pages again out of passion. Love basketball, so built, one of the largest independent basketball media pages and accounts, which we still own today. It's got about 10 million followers across social. It's called Hoops Nation, and we've sort of built a category of pages around that. The alpha now is in high quality original series. Yeah, like really, really well, produced viral potential series that are repeatable. Yeah, and doing that for brands. Yeah, that's where I think the alpha is today, and it's hard, but that's why I think it works.
Love that, man. And then in terms of platforms, do you feel like any of the platforms are underappreciated?
Facebook probably.
Facebook.
Probably underappreciated. Facebook it's the biggest social platform by a factor of almost triple.
Wow.
So, people forget that.
And so what, if you were trying to grow on Facebook, is there any specific kind of content that you feel really works well there?
No, it's the thing that, it's like in investing, they say buy the S&P 500 and content, Mr. Beast says, make the best content possible. It's just what you do. Make the best content possible.
Love it, man. Awesome. Well, Keith, do you have anything else?
No. Huge thanks for taking the time to chat with us. This was awesome.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
Everyone go follow Buster right now. His stuff is linked down below. Go follow his Instagram and his Twitter. And you post on LinkedIn too, right?
Yeah, I post on LinkedIn too. I post collectibles on Twitter. So that's probably interesting.
Okay.
Sweet, guys. Go show him some love. And go support Buster's stuff so you can see the collectible alpha that he shares all over the place.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Buster. Have a great day.
See you later.
Cheers, man. Bye-bye.
Peace. Wait, this was only a highlight from our live show, Memes and Markets, where we go live every Tuesday and Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. You can click the link in the description to subscribe to the live show and be sure to turn on all notifications so that you can get a reminder when we go live. Also, YouTube thinks that you will like this next.